welcome to Adventuring Academy. I'm your host, Brennan Lee Mulligan. With me as my guest is Mr. Brian Murphy.
Hi,
Brian Murphy.
intrepid heroes.
Woo! There it is. Brian, a.k.a. Murph, is, of course, you know and love, is a CH alumnus, the Dungeon Master of Not Another D&D podcast, a.k.a. NADPA, which you got to go check out, and also Riz Gukgak from Fantasy High, Season 1 of Dimension 20. Thanks for coming, Murph.
Thank you for having me. And Brennan is also my first ever DM.
We started playing, what, like 3 years ago?
3 years ago now, yeah.
3 years ago, right when I first moved to Los Angeles, I think there was like a weird rooftop party that it was like the first time it was like you and Emily were both there, and you guys were like, we want to play D&D. And I was like, I can make that happen. I hadn't even transitioned to 5e yet, so we have a 3-year-long Edition 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons game that we've been running, and every December we get a little cabin in Lake Arrowhead.
It's nice.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
It's very nice.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah.
This is so dope. It's been really fun. So we have this home campaign we've been playing in for a long time. You started playing in it 3 years ago. Your character, Sir Bulric Ghoulbane.
Dwarf Paladin.
Fuck yes. Murph and I share a fondness for dwarves at the expense of elves, I will say now.
Well, we like rules.
Rules.
This is why we're DMs.
If you go watch the behind the scenes of Fantasy High, I haven't tweeted this or commented on it. I laughed my fucking ass off because it's like Siobhan and Zach and a couple of people being like, it's just so amazing to have a place to express yourself and to go on an adventure in a magic land with your friends. Cut to Murph. There are consequences for stupid actions. That's why D&D is good. And honestly, I feel you.
Yeah. It's like I want to play a video game where I can die forever. That's why I play D&D. That's what makes it fun to me is consequences, is being like, I rolled this nat 20 when I needed to, and now we don't die or we save the world.
It's something that I think I've said some version of before on this podcast, but to elaborate, my favorite games, the number one favorite game far and away is Dungeons and Dragons, but I also love, weirdly, I don't think is like my brand necessarily, love poker, love Texas Hold'em. And one of the things I love about it is playing for money. And weirdly, what it comes down to for me, and also affects my taste in like stories that I like, is the idea of stakes. What is at stake? This is more fun the more it matters, right? And what's interesting about that is what is represented in a game of poker by money, your real actual finances, your ability to walk away and be like, oh, I can get a nicer dinner tonight because I won money here.
Yeah.
The stakes of D&D are equally real because loving characters and being invested in a story is extremely emotionally real.
Of course.
And I think there are elements of, like in Fantasy High, when, Eggfort kills himself to bring, and kills Mr. Gibbons to bring Kristen and Gorgug back. There is a matter of, okay, you guys might have survived, but this NPC that even just like you maybe like thought he was funny or liked him, he's gone, and
you made him kill himself because you're stupid. And that's awesome.
Right, that like, okay, we tried to jump on some tables and we went after these corn gremlins. It's very, watching that, you as Riz are the Cassandra of that battle. Round one, you're like, gotta get that corn blob. And then round two, you're like, gotta get that corn blob. And it's like, tables fun, swinging at cuties, ha ha ha, they're cute. Not so fucking cute now.
You could probably watch sometimes on Fantasy High and watch me trying not to be like an optimizing not even like rules lawyer because you know the rules, but more like for like the rest of the party, like wanting to be like, focus up, gang. This isn't funny. This is Dungeons and Dragons and we need to win.
Well, there is something about, which is I think a lesson that everyone learns playing. And to the extent that we're here giving advice to like dungeon masters that are starting, you will find as you begin a campaign, and especially for people that are starting a new campaign with new players, that there should be a grace period as you are breaking people in. And introducing the idea of consequences. I think I've already shared this story on the podcast, but remembering in Errol, in our home game, when you guys saw the healer that had like been mentoring Emily hanging from a noose because the Baron's man had killed her. And it was the first time in the campaign that you guys saw like, oh, we kind of breezed out of town knowing there were dangerous men here. It was literally the very first session. So it was like under the assumption that like sort of Final Fantasy style, you leave town, nothing changes in town, right?
Yeah.
But like, oh no, the world is extremely liquid, extremely dynamic, choices matter. She's dead, and full stop dead, and not coming back. And I remember the grim look of determination on everyone's face as you all went like, we're going to avenge her death. And I was like, cool, that's the... And I was like, you guys just got that taste for blood. And I think that to the degree that you can... kind of like a baseball glove, break your players in to the idea of consequences and lasting changes to the game world and the story. It's nice to do that in a way that doesn't TPK your players in the first session.
Totally, yeah. I think NPCs are kind of there for you to torture your players emotionally. Like, their NPCs are there to die, kind of. And it's up to the players to save them, essentially. That's kind of how I approach it, is like, these NPCs that you care about are going to die, and it's up to you to like affect the world in such a way that they get to live.
I love it. It's just in the spectrum of Dungeon Masters, Murph is so the dark Russian, like this like insane, grim, like pain is coming. And I fucking love it. But it's true. You do use, and it, like, in the same way psychologically that like a lot of kids learn about death for the first time with like a childhood pet or something like that, where they go like, oh, seeing it externally is your first step to processing it internally, and eventually making PCs ready potentially for a PC to die. Or to at least understand that that is what's on the table. Rare. It's rare for a PC to die, mostly because PCs have a more intuitive time acting in their own self-preservation, for the preservation of things around them. Yeah. But it can happen.
Certainly.
Has there ever been a time in NADPOD where you got close to a PC death?
We've had a lot that were very close. We've had a lot of like near total party knockouts. Like we had Siobhan on for an arc where literally just because she was a barbarian is the only reason that she survived. Because in 5e, barbarians are ridiculous. They can they take like half damage. So there was a total party knockout that only she was still alive. And it was because the players weren't kind of taking like the wink, wink, you're going to die. This is, you know, a kind of serious situation. There were like these like machine gun turrets that were on the first level of this boat that kept like shooting them. And they kept like trying to disarm the guns even though they were getting shot. And it's like, you're gonna die, guys.
I will say that I think part of the trick of being a DM is you actually have some ritual that you have to observe if you are going to allow a PC to die. Now, I say allow. The dice are the boss. Right. Sometimes you're in a situation where, like someone said, like, were you going to let the PCs die? And I sort of went like, by the time initiative gets rolled, I kind of stop being a creator and am now a referee. Like, we put the bad guys on the table. It's kind of up to fate at that point, right? That being said, I think that you have a job to set the tone for when things get really bad. The example I'll use is like, do you remember when the trailer came out for Infinity War? And I remember watching that trailer for Infinity War and going, oh no, because of how reverse psychology works and tonal stuff. Like, you know, you're used to watching a trailer and it's like, I will make you pay. I will bend the world to my will. I am going to destroy and you're like, this dude's about to get clowned.
Dude's gonna get owned.
He's gonna get fucking owned hard. Fuck you, dude. And the trailer for Infinity War started and it was Thanos going, I feel sorry for you. And you're like, why am I being cared for tenderly? What's about to happen? And it immediately let me know, like, I should be emotionally prepared to lose something here. And I think as a DM, you can do if you kill a PC in a battle where you're like, hey, a big fucking scorpion comes up, blah, 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 and someone dies, they're going to be rightfully pissed at you. But if you set up a battle like you see like a ship escaping from the harbor, things are coming from the city. In other words, there's an opportunity to escape. you feel an air of dread settle over the city, and you start to get you paint a picture for them of like, make the choices you're going to make, but I'm giving you tonal clues about what's at stake here,
Right.
rather than normal.
Yeah, I think that, and to bring it back to Infinity War, which I haven't seen, but just because pop culture, I know what's going on. I don't like superheroes.
I mean,
I like going to a different world. I don't want like you have superpowers, but you live in fucking New York. Give me a break.
Yeah,
give me Aragorn's cool. I like Aragorn. I think the idea of like a PC death is like they make the choice themselves a little bit. Either they're being stupid or they're being brave, and then luck, and then bad luck. And I think that's kind of what happens in Infinity War with like Thor. It's like he could have like killed Thanos by hitting him in the head. Was that the thing? He's like, should have aimed for the head. He says that.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that. So he makes a bad choice, and then it's some bad luck because it's Thanos' initiative next, and he gets to go.
Yeah.
Everybody's dead.
Right.
That's Thor's fault. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think there is an element of handling PC death of weirdly, this sounds manipulative and borderline not okay, of making it clear that it's the PC's, I won't say fault, but that there were choices they made that made this a compelling part of the story. In other words, like, okay, you were in this pyramid that we made you go because of the adventure, but did you run back for some more treasure? If you ran back for some more treasure, you know what I mean? Like, and where it goes like, ooh, there's something actually poetic about this. I think it's the only time where as a DM you got to be really careful is if a PC is about to die in a way that's not poetic. And I know that you might be watching this and going like, well, how do I control that? What if a battle just goes sideways? And I would say that this is part of the reason that you should be making sure that your combats are carefully planned out. If you're going to have an overwhelming combat, make sure that it's in a setting where people are emotionally prepared to maybe die. Don't throw an overwhelming combat into this scenario where it doesn't seem to play into the idea of a PC maybe saying sayonara.
Right. Yeah, there's a huge difference between being like, you're 3 level 4s and 8 trolls attack you and they just kill you. Like, that's stupid and that sucks. But if it's like, one of our NPCs that we're friends with or something is captured and they're in like a cave with a bunch of trolls or something, and then somebody dies trying to sneak in and get that guy back, that's cool. Yeah. So that's kind of on the DM to be like, to make sure that you don't have combat for no reason.
Yes, I totally agree with that. It's interesting, too, to look back and see in terms of like when overwhelming combats are appropriate. Like now that the season's fully out, Calvaxis, Golden Horde, was an impossible encounter for you guys. I mean, challenge rating wise, he was fucking off the spectrum.
Right, yeah.
Because I knew that needed to be a climactic battle, but also because you guys had this magical stopwatch, but just never
fucking forgot about
it. So I was like, we
don't see the recap, guys.
But what was so funny is that people were like, oh, this is one of the things about that combat, actually looking at it, is you guys, aside from the roles for the police to show up. God damn it. Truly the only cursed human being I know in real life. We were talking about it earlier.
So bad at rolling dice. I don't know. Emily's pretty good at it. Like, as a household, we're like 50-50. We're pretty good, but.
For sure. It's wild, though, because you guys really held your own against Calvaxis. In terms of actual combat and dealing damage and yada, 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 you guys did really well. You guys did to the point where, like, you guys survived for so long and rolled so well on your death saving throws that by the time you pulled the watch, you guys came back, and Calvaxis was actually a little bit on the ropes by that point already.
Right.
And you kind of shut him down real quick when you guys came back from the time stop.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like, oh, they're gonna have him in the bag. This dragon is toast, which was fucking dope. And then
but at that point, it's like you feel like you've earned it. You know what I mean? Like for us in that moment, we're not thinking, oh, this fight's really easy now or something. We're just like, fuck yes, let me hit him. Like, I actually get to do something and roll. It's awesome.
Yeah. That last round was insane that you guys all did on cut. It was like lightning bolt, some kind of like Sonic. It was like shatter or like thunder or something from Fig. Kristen jumps down his mouth. Gorgug saves Sklanda. I think Fabian got 4 attacks on him, and then you hit him for some absurd sneak attack damage. Dude was toast.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing. We want to talk about some stuff today. Specifically, there were some things you brought up that were really interesting, which is starting locations for D&D campaigns. Moonstone Jamboree. We're talking about the very beginning setting NADPOD in Moonstone. I think it is a classic and iconic way to start a D&D campaign, to go to a small little town beset by monsters.
It's so easy. Like, that's what I would, any new DM, like, start with a village so that you don't have to build the whole city.
Whether it be Moonstone or, in my case, Finnery, which is where you guys...
Which was also a fishing village.
It was fishing village
very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, as you look through like the DM's guide and everything, you'll see it'll be like city, population size, 400,000 to 2 million. It's like, you do not want to start by having to make 2 million people. That's too much. And villages, it's like a village can have 100 people in it. It can have 20 people in it if you want to have like a really small hamlet or whatever. Is that a hamlet?
A hamlet.
A hamlet.
I think in the old 2nd edition, that went even one smaller than hamlet to Thorpe, which the population for a Thorpe was like 1 to 20.
That's just a house. That's just a dude lives there.
If you were in the middle of the woods and some fucking guy wandered out and was like,
Thorpe.
"Welcome to the Thorpe. All right, the population of the Thorpe has just quadrupled." Yeah, that's crazy.
Right, yeah. Yoda lives in a Thorpe, I guess, by himself on Dagobah. But yeah, I think starting in a village is great. And also just, it makes it easy for you to kind of come up with how to make it feel lived in, like the logic of it, of just being like, it's a fishing village. They make their money by fishing, and that's it. You don't need to come up with like a bunch of guilds or anything like that. And you can kind of, build off that from there once you like kind of learn how to DM.
Yeah. My friend Jack Covell, who is the lead character designer at Heart Machine, which is a great, awesome video game company, who I've been playing D&D with since we were kids. We've been playing with him for like 10 years in this one campaign. He did a campaign when I was like getting very busy and we were running Aridane a little bit less. He came in and was like, I'm going to run a thing called, it was called Goblin Trouble. And he's like, you're in a village in thick woods. The old empire fell. There's no maps. Goblins are everywhere.
Yep.
And every PC was like, got it, great. And what's so funny is he was like, I'm doing this so that I don't have to think about world background, because we all just want to play, and I'm going to make my life easy, Cut to me, like, world background, design, this, that. And but it's like exhausting to do that. And he was like, I don't have that bandwidth. I'm going to do this. And it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Not every world needs to have pages and pages and pages of world picture. But what's funny is that we played it for like 2 years and got really fucking into it. I had this character who was this like, he was a giant, but who was like an armored, he was like a holdover from this imperial time when giants were these shock troops of these like wizard emperors. And he was lawful evil, but was not like an evil character.
Yeah.
He was just like a violent, thuggish, like...
But he likes rules.
And was like, I'm going to find a wizard. This place has fallen into chaos. What is needed is a strong iron fist to rule this land. And I will find a wizard to do that, and I will kill his enemies. And what was, like, in other words, a weirdly relatable character that in any other setting would be like, this is an enemy, but in a setting beset by goblins terrorizing everywhere, it was like, oh, the giant came in and killed all those goblins and then told us we have to pay a tithe of our farms to this wizard, but we're glad the goblins are gone. It was, but like, what was so funny is in the making of that world, session by session by session, as Jack like further developed and like moved his village to village, the world started to accrue a really awesome backstory just by piecemealing it together. And having the world design happen in that really organic way never deprived us of a feeling of the richness of the world at all.
Yeah, you need to know, like, what's in the little circle for the session, and then what's in a little circle like around that. You don't need to know everything. Like, George R.R. Martin doesn't know what's going on with Bran. Like, he's making shit up as he goes. and he's the most famous fantasy author. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to know everything right away.
No.
And that's why just like start with a little village, guys. Little village.
It's very, there's I think picking your starting locations is really important for that reason. I will say, though, to do something that's maybe counter to the classic wisdom is I think your location can be very humble, and I think that your amount of world background can be as developed or non-developed as you like. Because again, your PCs, they're experiencing the game from their point of view. So as long as they understand themselves and what they're up to, just make the world around them and their experience. That's fine. Or flip out and make a ton of stuff if you want. But just like don't get it twisted. The focus is on the PCs.
Yes. Do the fun part of world building. If you're like, oh, I've got awesome ideas for like all these gods and this pantheon and everything, go ahead and do that. But don't feel like you need to, iron out all the rules for every guild in the main city if you're just starting with a fishing village.
Exactly.
You'll figure that out when they get to the city.
As you're developing the pantheon, keep in mind you're developing this because theoretically one of the PCs will worship one or have a connection. Like, in other words,
or just like ask. They'll just be like, what god do I like? And you're just like, you just pull something out of your ass. You don't need like, you know what I mean?
100%. One thing I will say, though, is I think that to go counter to classic wisdom, I would recommend starting your PCs in a location, but not throwing them into a situation where you're like, you're in a tavern. You guys all like each other, right? You guys are all friends, right? Because even if your PCs are very good natured, like I'm a pretty easygoing PC, and if you go like, Brennan, can you just get along with all these other characters? I'll go like, yeah, of course, I'll get along with them. But if I don't know why I'm getting along with them, I will have to do a little bit of extra legwork on my own to figure that out. I think one of the things I'd recommend, especially if, like looking back at like Fantasy High, is I think the party got so close so quickly and the friendship was so real, partially because every single character got their own little window into starting together and had that thing of like, Riz knows he's looking for the missing girls. Kristen knows that she's trying to convert people to Helio. And I think that there's a lot to be said for starting your PCs off feeling heroic, meaning that they feel like there's a reason they're adventuring, rather than like, you're in a tavern, some shit goes down. What are you going to do about it?
Like, I think definitely DMs should talk to their players first and get their player backgrounds, because even with like NADPOD, it was easy to get Caldwell, Jake, and Emily hooked into the first quest because it was like Caldwell's character is like a halfling Boy Scout as part of the group called the Green Teens, and the Green Teens get captured. So he instantly has to go save them. And then Jake's character, being like this like wannabe adventurer heroic guy, is like missing children. He is going to make that choice on his own to like care about that. Yeah. Whereas if you make your starting quest and you're just like, there's some orcs on the edge of town and we got 20 gold for you, it's not the same.
I totally agree. And I think that it's one of those things where when you're talking about plot hooks or like an adventure hook, I think it's important to remember that a static PC or a PC that is just a collection of abilities, or even like a personality with no desire. Like if you're like, I'm a sarcastic warlock, and you're like, sarcasm has never motivated anyone to do anything.
Yeah.
What drives your character forward? You need your PCs to be in motion and to have wants and desires in order to be able to hook them at all. So it's so much better if you have a wizard. If a wizard's like, I am a brilliant but befuddled wizard, it's like, cool, that's a personality trait. But if you're like, I'm searching for scrolls because my orders collapsed, or like, I want to prove that I'm the best wizard in the world, that these active wants, then it's easy to hook people. Because you go like, you heard that the orcs at the edge of town have some scrolls, have a thing, and you're like, got it. I know why I'm doing this. It might feel unfair as a DM to be like, well, why is the motivation of a PC my responsibility? And the question is, often, especially if you have new players, it's not intuitive for people that haven't like taken a creative writing seminar to know to give themselves that.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot in character creation to be like, this is a funny thing, but again, to look at someone who's a PC and be like, hey, I see you're designing your character and you want them to be like an edgelord loner. Even if we're going to say that let's definitely have you be this like shadowy ranger who has no friends, let's give you something that makes you put one foot in front of the other every day.
Yeah.
Because that's going to make this all feel fun.
Yeah, you have to care about something. So that there are stakes.
Yeah, 100%. So that there are stakes and there can be consequences for stupid choices.
We love.
We love
killing people. We love it.
Questions. Thank you very much. This first question comes to us from Mr. Rick Perry himself, the maestro. Rick Perry creates all of our sets for Fantasy High.
Brilliant.
Minis. He's the maestro. He's a genuine wizard. I'm always curious to know exactly what a DM has behind their screen. Monster note cards, stuff bookmarked, etc. Murph, what do you got behind your DM screen when you're DMing NAPOD?
I usually print out my monsters so that I don't have to flip through a million different books. Because I have, like, you know, I like to collect D&D books at this point. So I print them out by like possible encounter. So if people are going into like this castle and there's like you know, some like commander knight that they might fight and then a bunch of guards, I'll have the knight and the commanders all on one sheet. And then if there's like, if they're going to go into the swamp and there's like bullywugs and a snake or something, they're all on a separate sheet. And based on kind of what the players decide to do, you know, I'll have that sheet ready. And then, you know, just in case they like fuck up and do something insane, like throw a knife at the king or something, you'll be like, all right, I guess I'll have the monster manual here in case I have to like look up what a sick noble's stats would be.
The haunted expression on your face when you talk about them throwing a knife at the king just makes me all the more excited to one day play with Caldwell.
Well, he has it. Everybody always does things that are like very brave, but too brave. It'll be more like, the main bad guy of the entire campaign is giving a speech to them and they're only level 5 and they're going to try to kill him. It's like, I was planning on having him disappear in a puff of smoke, but I guess he's got to smack you around a little bit now.
I love that. Printing them out is great. I use my laptop all the time, which someone commented recently, like, what do you have your laptop back there for? And it's like, dog, that's
I do that too.
Laptop, and what I do is I have tabs open to monsters, spells, and I just make sure that I play in a place with Wi-Fi because there's that Command F, that find function is so critical.
Ooh, that's helpful for me. I should start doing that.
It's great to just zoom around in a spell list somewhere or look up some ability really quickly that's like buried in a larger file. And for 5e at least, but with most games, they have their content available on like some website somewhere that you can go to and click, whether it's like a wiki or something else, you can quickly find material. I'll do that for monsters, for lots of stuff. It's really, really helpful and just gives me a flexibility and ease of mind. I also, especially with like giant combats like we have for Fantasy High, where also we're like on a timetable of like, oh, the episode, we want the episode to come in around a certain time. I started making these little initiative sheets for myself that also have, so it's like a grid of the number of the round, the initiative, or so after initiative is rolled, I'll put in everyone's name. Then I'll go round up here. And then in addition to checking people one by one as we go through the initiative order, I'll have little boxes for marked reminders, be they status conditions like poisoned, grappled, stunned, whatever, or I'll have stuff like remembering like wild magic surges. I will then usually have loose hit points for PCs on the bottom, just for me to keep track of like who's getting really banged around and who's not. And I'll have the same for villains, along with not only hit point totals, but like spell slots for them, legendary resistances, and then the fucking bane of my life, which is concentration spells, which I always fucking forget.
Yeah, me too.
I will have spell cards in a little, they have a little, like, I draw a little jail for them on the sheet, and they live there. And then every time someone takes damage, I just, like, spread them out a little bit and go, like, is there a spell that's got to happen now? I still forget sometimes. It's hard.
It's tough. You have it harder as somebody who is on video, because it's easier for me to edit myself like with audio. Like I can just be like, stop guys, I need to go check the book. And, you know, like we'll just take a minute and everybody will go to the bathroom and I'll go through the books and make sure, you know, it's a little easier in audio form, I feel.
It's also hard because, you know, like there's I mean, like for Fantasy High and Dimension 20 in general, we don't edit at all, pretty much. I mean, like the editors obviously do a tremendous amount of work polishing stuff. The editors are
sound effects and
putting
like that.
The editors do a Herculean task. They're incredible. But you know, we leave the vast majority of the material in there. So you know, there's a lot of things where I will also go like, we're going to skip that, not because I'm taking it easy on the PCs, but just because I can't do another.
Needs to be entertaining.
This needs to be entertaining.
We'll have on NADPOD, it'll literally be like, somebody will take a whole turn and then just be like, wait, I didn't actually have a second level spell slot. And it's just like, okay, we'll do your turn again. And I'll just delete it. Because like,
God, that sounds rad.
It's great. Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other things behind the screen. Oh, having things taped up on the screen is nice. I have a little index card that has, and I started doing this recently. I don't even think I did this during Fantasy High. I've streamlined a lot of I've been doing this for 20 years. And
you have to, because
you
have to be fast.
I have every PC's armor class, their the DC of their spells, all that stuff pre-listed. So I don't have to check in with them. I know if a monster hits them, and I know if a monster
because they don't know it.
Yeah,
the DM needs to know everything. It's generally how it works. Actually, because of Rick suggested this to me one time, which is to write out your initiative, like literally write 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, and mark people off that way. Because I had previously, I'm just like a very messy, not organized person. I would literally just be like, Jake, then Emily, then Caldwell, and there'd be like little arrows to like, as like monsters rolled in and everything. And it's gotten a lot easier for me. I also sometimes will roll initiative ahead of time for monsters.
Ooh,
and so I have like pages of like, this is what this encounter could look like, this encounter could look like. And if it's any time that they're fighting a big battle, I have that all. If it's going to be like, there's gnolls, and then there's burly gnolls, and then there's the flint that is going to do this, and the purple worm. It's like, if there's 5 or 6 different category of monsters, I have them all pre-rolled behind the screen.
That's extremely good. That rules. That's you should do that.
Yeah.
Something else, this is not true for Fantasy High. In my home game, in Errol that we play, we recently had a combat, and I have a bunch of little counters and tokens. My favorite tokens that I have for when I just have like the mat and marker on it. Because, you know, it's like a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Homey?
Yeah.
Informal. I use Othello tokens, which are white and black, and I'll flip the token over to the white side, and you can use erasable marker to keep track of how much damage an enemy has taken right on top of the little guy.
Yeah.
Which is a handy thing you can do. The most recent battle we had in Errol, I couldn't do that because I needed to use all the little gemstones because there were so many bandits.
Yep.
We had a fun...
Zach Oyama got us into a fight against every bandit in the world. By failing he failed like a persuasion check to, his character's name is Giuseppe, and he went in and a bunch of people asked who he was, and he really unconvincingly said that his name was Moosefi, and then he rolled like a 1, and there were just like 90 guys around.
He just decided to walk in. It was a camp of very scary bandits in a world that's experienced, like undergoing a kind of like arcane collapse of civilization almost, and there's all these fucking bandits, and he's like, there's so many bandits, I'll just walk in, they won't recognize me. And it's the kind of thing where you're like, yeah, but also like if you're in a group of like 90 people's a lot of people, but it's not that many people.
If you go to a towny bar, people know that you're not from there.
They know right away. It can be a bar packed to the gills, 150 people. They know you're not. So they're like, hey, dude, what's your deal? And he's like, I am Musafi. And everyone drew swords and stabbed him. Like, literally 8 people stabbed him right away. And then the 4 kings came out. It was a manticore, a chimera, a basilisk, and a cockatrice all came out.
And they were all really stupid and sucked. But because our first round was so bad of Zach getting stabbed like 10 times, we thought we were fucked. So we were all like, and we're all like level 10. So bandits are like nothing to us. But we were so fucked at first that we all start like retreating, but we're killing like 10 dudes every turn.
Funniest, so Murph has just leveled up to become a cavalier and has like a lance with like the valorous trait on it, and the funniest move I've ever seen. The manticore, well, first of all, all 4 of these monsters jumped out. The manticore was talking, so there was an implication that they were all brilliant. Turns out only the manticore, so the manticore was like, we are 4 kings, and the other 3 are like, like completely unthinking.
Sucky idiots.
And Murph goes, we must flee, and charges. And on the way out is like, I'll get one glancing strike on the manticore as I charge past him, completely obliterates his skull, and just whips around to rejoin. So like, we must go. Turn around.
Never mind, the leader sucks, so the other guys suck.
Very, very funny.
Yeah. That is a good thing though for a starting location. Speaking of like bandits and stuff, and you did this for our Arrow campaign, for our off-camera campaign, which is to just have bad guys like making trouble in town.
Great.
So it's like you have the goblins outside of town, you have the bad guys making trouble inside town, whether it's like a baron's men or some kind of barbarians or bandits or something.
Yeah.
Then the players feel like they're choosing. But the only stuff you just like create some bullies. You don't even need to like write for that. You're just like, there's a guy who is mean at the tavern.
It's true. And I think there is also something, I mean, I do this a lot in my campaigns as well, especially Errol, where there's like multiple different bad guys, some of which are working together, some of which are working across purposes. And it's a really easy way to make it feel like there's adventure everywhere. But the PCs are like, what do we want to do? Which is all the fun of D&D anyway, is just getting to choose what your adventure's going to look like. Mm-hmm. How can you get into D&D if you didn't play it as a child? I've been having an extremely difficult time finding anyone in my area that takes brand new players. And if I ever find one, I'd hate to be the annoying newbie in the group. Lizard.
I don't think anybody thinks newbies are annoying. People are usually excited to like share their hobby with people.
Yeah.
I would say, right?
If you are getting shade from people for being a newbie,
then those people suck.
You gotta dip.
Yeah.
And actually you just dodged a bullet because that was a bad campaign going on.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest. There's a very common, I've been DMing for 20 years, and there's a really common thread of like, that's why you're good, because you've been doing it for 20 years. That's not true. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've improved that much since I was 12. You know,
you must have been pretty good when you were 12 then.
But you know what I mean? Like it's.
But people were having fun in your games when you were 12, and that's the point of it.
That's the point of it, right? That like it doesn't take that long to get really good.
I DM'd the second game I ever played.
Yep, there you go, exactly.
And it didn't go like crazy smoothly. There were a ton of things I got wrong. There were moments where, I got like tripped up or something, but my friends had fun and it was good.
By the way, you don't get you can't win D&D. If people had a good time, that's a success.
Exactly, that's a win.
That's a win.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And I think it's important to try to dispel some of that, you got to bank a lot of time to get good at this. Mm-hmm. Nope, you don't. And honestly, if you are fucking up, it doesn't detract from the fun. I've been doing this for 20 years, and we'll get through a battle and be like, oh, we got that rule wrong. We were doing that wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
And you go oh, it's still ruled. And also because magic is real in these universes, you're like, I guess that spell was extra potent because you were in a ley line.
Yeah.
And then everything's groovy, and you just keep moving on. I think that it's... so I will say that no one cool is going to have a bad time with you because you're a newbie. People are usually, I'm always excited to share with people. I played as a PC in Molly Ostertag's home game, and people had a running joke of me as the rules lawyer because every once in a while someone would be like, I rolled, and they'd be like, I only got a 13, and I'd be like, you're forgetting your bless, and like come in and be
yeah.
like, yeah, there's
That's
actually
not
a
rules lawyering. That's helping.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's the thing is, I'm a rules lawyer for good.
Yes,
for the forces of justice.
Lawful good instead of lawful evil.
Exactly. There you go. And so, like, if you're playing with people that are advanced, they will love to help you. Allie had never played D&D before, and they had a fucking ball. And I think everyone was excited to help Allie. Like, you can go and see Murph being a lawful good rules lawyer as well, and like helping Allie out with stuff. Find your buddy at the table that's going to help you out with that. 100%.
It's fun to like teach other people and to like learn with other people and stuff like that. It reminds you of why you love the game. You know what I mean?
100%.
And then also, I think that people, you know, maybe this was true 5 or 6 years ago before there were like all of these D&D shows that you can't DM or something because you've never played before or something like that. But like somebody who's watched Dimension 20 for, 30 or 40 hours has a much better grasp on the game than somebody who's played like 3 times, right?
I 100% agree.
Like there are people who have watched Critical Role for 4 years and they think they don't know how to play D&D.
I guarantee you are not missing anything but the sliver of a fraction of what's going on. There, like if you've watched all of Fantasy High, you can DM.
Buy the starter set. It's very easy. It's like this like thin little booklet. You can go through it like
100%. I will say to the practical element of this question about like how do I find a group, that's really challenging. Part of the thing that's beautiful about D&D is that you're playing in real time with other human beings. Part of the thing that's challenging about D&D is you're playing in real time with other human beings. Schedules have to align, even if you're playing remotely. I would say if you're living in a place that's not very population dense, try to find players online. There's great Skype games going on. And if that proves to be challenging as well, I would say that I used to play when I was a wee little child, when I was like 11 and 12. My brother and I, who were already playing D&D all day, Saturday and Sunday, every week with our friends, would usually after schoolwork was done, like around like dinner time and after, would literally sit on our beds in our bedroom and play one-on-one with each other. One-on-one D&D, like psychopaths, like crazy people.
Yeah.
We would just play and play and play. So, like you had 3 PCs in that pod.
In that pod, it's just 3 people and me. So you don't even need like I think a lot of people too will see like Dimension 20 or something. They're like, well, how do I get like 8 or 9 people together?
Yeah.
You don't need to.
No.
You can. We've done. I play with Emily's family. I'll DM for Emily and her dad, and there'll be like a little 2-person party, and it's super fun.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
That's great.
So I would say try your best to either, telecommute or play remotely if you can. If not, you can scale down the size of your party.
Yeah.
And also, if you're worried about DMing, you can also take turns. You can, share the responsibility. And I think that, it's one of those things where people will, talk to me on the Discord for dropout people and be like, I am like scared, and I always want to go like, if you've watched the show, there's nothing you're not getting. I promise you, you are ready.
Right. Yeah. And also, if you have friends that are like, some people have completely different interests from their friends, so that's like one thing. But if you have friends that are like play video games or like kind of nerdy stuff or into these sort of things, if you have a few friends that want to play D&D, and you probably do, they would be happy to have somebody who is willing to DM, even if they didn't know what they were doing. You know what I mean? Just to give it a shot.
The amount of honestly, I think the biggest bottleneck for D&D in general is finding people who want to DM.
Nobody's willing to do it.
But be prepared if you do say that you're going to DM. Just be prepared to
DM all the time.
Yeah. And be prepared to have played the game for 20 years and have only ever gotten the character to 7th level. Hit me up in the comments if you guys want to DM for me. Beyond official D&D books, sources, what do you primarily use to create your universes? With Dimension 20, you clearly have a plethora of sources you draw from, but what sources do you suggest for aspiring DMs to base their worlds on? Whoa. That's heavy.
I like video games.
Yeah.
I like I like kind of steampunky stuff. So I end up using like Warcraft type
Sorry, that's
thing.
official bad dad. Official bad dad asked the question.
Official bad dad. Yeah, I kind of find that my campaigns end up skewing towards whatever I'm into at the time. Like if I'm playing The Witcher or something, like suddenly there'll be, cool witch hunter alchemists who are, trying to track down monsters or something like that. So I kind of just I find that I just naturally incorporate whatever other nerdy thing I am enjoying.
Yeah.
But what do you?
I mean, pre my first memories, I think I was 3 or 4 years old. My mom gave me a tabard and a wooden sword, and I would run around pretending to be Gareth of Orkney, who's one of Sir Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. So I didn't.
What drew you to Gareth?
What's that?
What drew you to Gareth specifically?
He was the kitchen knight. I used to say, I'm the kitchen knight. And he was the Orkney brother. He was like Gawain's little brother.
Cool.
Now I love Gawain might be my favorite knight. We all got favorite knights of the Round Table, right?
If it's not Lancelot, you're a nerd. If you know more than one of the knights.
Dude, fucking what? You Galahad, Bedivere,
I know who Galahad is.
you fucking know Galahad. Come on, give me a break. Grail Quest. What I'm interested in does change from time to time, but I was steeped in fantasy. My mom is literally, look up Elaine Lee. She's a incredible science fiction author. She wrote Starstruck, but I was steeped in mythology and Joseph Campbell and fantasy and all that shit from a teeny time. I was baked in kind of. And the campaigns I've run from when I was 11 to 17, I ran the most classic D&D high fantasy campaign all the way to 20th level. We all were going off to college. We wept in a cabin as the campaign ended. Everyone became gods. What a hoot.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Just hell yeah.
In college, I had another campaign that was, and it was interesting because I was well, I did high fantasy. So I wanted to do something new. So I did this thing called Storm City, which was fantasy noir. And it was this insane, ever dark city of gritty crime, fantasy stuff. And using different inspiration. And when we're talking about inspiration, I think often what you're talking about is tropes. You're talking about genre, archetypes, tone, mood, vibe. Right? Aridane, the 3.5 campaign that I've been doing the longest, is very steampunky. Very Miyazaki, Laputa Castle in the Sky. But notice that again, I'm name checking specific mythologies, fantasy things. If you want to do straight Lord of the Rings, do straight Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Errol, I went kind of back to my roots of and honestly, the one I ran when I was a kid was high fantasy. There was a nation of dragons. That's some goofy shit.
A whole city full of dragons?
What is the ecosystem there? With Errol, I wanted to give you, because you guys never played D&D before, I was do I want to make, and I even pitched you guys, I was do you want to do fantasy noir? Do you want to do this? And I think everyone was give us the straight.
Be a dude who has a sword.
Yeah, I want the straight fantasy, right? So there's nothing wrong, especially if no one's ever played before. All of us, who doesn't want to be an elven princess? Yeah. Who doesn't want to be a fucking, ancient old sorcerer? We want these archetypes. But you might find that after years of playing, you're I'm building a tolerance. I need some weirder shit to do it for me. So I think that there's no wrong choice. I
think it's interesting. And you see it with DMs that have been DMing for longer, which is it's really weird that I'm going to make this comparison, but it's almost like MMA a little bit. Where if you look at the beginning of UFC, it's all of those guys come from different traditional martial arts, and so it's you got jiu-jitsu guys fighting karate guys and stuff like that, kickboxers, boxers, whatever. But now people are just learning MMA. You can go to there are good fighters who instantly were, when they were 15 or 16 years old, are learning wrestling and kickboxing and the foundations of MMA. That's kind of what Dungeons and Dragons is now, is you've got, I think, good DMs and people who are building worlds who maybe haven't even necessarily read Lord of the Rings or anything.
Right.
And soon I think you will see DMs who only know Dungeons and Dragons. That's like the only fantasy thing that they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, where do you come into this? Are you like old man crotchety, like that's wrong, or are you like
no?
dope?
Because I think I'm in the middle. Because I'm a video games guy, or that's like how I came into it. Like my big experiences with fantasy are like playing EverQuest and like MMOs and playing like Warcraft 2 and all of that. Like getting really nerdy about the lore of all of that stuff was more my thing than like Tolkien stuff, which I got into later.
Yes.
But only kind of like I read more fantasy now that I'm DMing all of the time than I did. Like it didn't inspire me to get into Dungeons and Dragons like video games did.
Yeah.
And just being like DMing is a way for me to make my own video game essentially. It's just like I can just write like Final Fantasy 20, that's me, buddy, and you guys are my players, and I'm the programmer, and you're in my world.
Well, I love that too, because I think that it's like all of these differences between you and the other DMs that are working, and by the you I mean the rhetorical, all of us. Is that no one can DM like you because no one's going to have your exact combo of influences. The second you started talking about that, I started thinking about NADPOD, and I was like, fuck, man, like all the combat encounters are so well designed from like in NADPOD are so fun from the idea of how to interact with the combat as a game in and of itself. And also the PCs got the airship.
Yeah.
In your thing.
Yeah. It's Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
like,
that's so fun, man. I fucking love that. So I think never be afraid to use what makes you passionate.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever you're bringing from, even if your shit that you fucking love is like, you know, those like romance video games, like dating sim video games, bring that into your D&D thing. Do like like Dragon Age is the one where it's all romance simulated. Like bring whatever you're excited about to D&D, and the game will be able to adapt to what your interests are.
You don't need to have read the Silmarillion to DM.
I'm actually Silmarillion. But you don't. You absolutely don't. And
Case in point.
I
don't even know the fucking name of it. The Hobbit's better than the Lord of the Rings.
We better go to another question. No, but it's
not the movie, the book. The movie is fucking bad.
Yeah, the movie's bad. But no, it's really true. And again, but in terms of the question, like when we're talking about inspiration, I will also say my last thought on that would be like, don't be afraid to be really. Don't feel like you have to have a weird mystery about what your inspirations are. Like notice that me and Murph are saying the names of books and movies and games.
Yeah.
Don't be like, you know, if people are asking and they're like, oh, this like culture you're creating feels kind of like weird Celtic Ireland vibe. Is that what you're going for? Don't be like, no, it's totally original. Be like, yeah, that's the vibe I'm going for. Yeah. If you're doing a Miyazaki thing, be like, yeah, this is all about flight and travel and like, but with weird Mononoke vibes. Like, don't be afraid to be like, yes, if these keys are helping you get in, these are my sources of inspiration. Share that with your PCs because it's going to help them make a character that aligns with the themes of your world. And it feels good for a PC when they don't feel like rendered in a different artistic style than the world. If a PC feels like, oh, I really am a character that belongs in this setting and plays into its themes, I think people have a better time. This is a perfect question for having Murph on, which is why I wanted to get to it. When it comes to being a DM, where do you draw the line at letting players do things? At what point do you just straight up say no?
I've said this many times on NADPOD, which is the characters are Legolas. They are not Bugs Bunny. I don't want to run that goofy shit. If you want to take your shield and surfboard down some stairs and shoot some elephants and ride down the trunk, dope, awesome. You can do that with a good athletics check. But you're not like using a whoopee cushion to distract somebody. You're not doing a mating call to like trick a bullywug into thinking you're a frog. Like, not gonna work. They're gonna come out and kill you because bullywugs are evil frogmen who worship froghemoths, and they will feed you to a big frog if you goof around.
Oh my God, it's great. I really love that. That's very fun. I feel like, well, first of all, it's like, your crew of Jake and Caldwell and Emily on NADPOD are great because I feel like you have a hard line stance about that, and you have some players who will try some shit.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sexy Rat from Fantasy High.
Yeah. But was Emily Sexy
That was
Rat?
Emily's.
Of course.
Listen, Emily is one of the best D&D players in the world, endlessly creative, so fun to play with. She was also sent from hell to kill me.
Yes.
You understand.
Yes. She's chaotic, and we're rules guys.
We're rules guys.
Yeah.
You got to play by the rules. But what's interesting is I think that and this is pure hubris on my part, I never want to say no. I never want to say no. So all that I will do, I think if you watch me DM, it's all Aikido. It's all redirecting energy. So someone's like, I want to pull a bomb out of my butt. And I'm like, it sounds like what you want to do is come up with a solution to create an area of effect spell. You have another spell that can do that.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm very like Siri about it. Like, I didn't get that. Are you trying to,
Yep.
I always want to try to react it in that way.
My other move is roll 3 nat 20s in a row. There was one time Caldwell tried to do stand up to get it was some monster that was literally like born of hell. His name was like the Loneliness or something in the monster manual or in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. And it was like just like a being of pure sadness that like they just needed to kill, but he was like trying to do stand up. And I literally said, roll 3 nat 20s in a row. And he didn't. He rolled 1.
Insane.
But
Insane. I do feel like as a DM, what you can do is be empathetic to your player. If your player is searching for a creative solution and you can sense that it's because they're actually frustrated with the options that are available to them, like you're reading their face and they're like, I don't know, can I fucking try this? And you're like, oh, this is a good faith effort because you feel that you don't have good options available to you. I think you can talk that through with them at the table and be like, yeah, and you can massage stuff. If someone's like, can I use my magic to like kill everybody? And you're like, well, you can't do that.
But you can shoot a fireball.
You can shoot a fireball.
Yeah.
Like massaging, redirecting energy, and trying to help people find a solution that makes them feel like their character. I think as much as possible, you can avoid saying no and try to lead your PC in the direction of, here's what I think it sounds like you're trying to do. Here's something that within the rules would be possible that's very much in the direction of what you're going for. That's great to avoid those hard no's.
And you can also kind of like use the rules to your advantage, where you can kind of be like a wink, wink. This might not be the best idea, or this is going to be really hard to pull off. Like somebody's like, I want to run up behind them and stab them in the neck. It's like, well, the rules are in place because like AC is them moving around and stuff. So it's like you have to hit to do that stuff. But you can be like, okay, I'll give you advantage on the attack if you want to do some crazy acrobatics check and do like a flip off the wall or something like that. But if you fail, then you flubbed it and you fell on your face. You don't get to attack at all.
Deferring to the dice is always great because you can always be like, I'm telling you how unlikely this is because I'm setting the DC so high.
Yeah.
And that is a good way to do that, unless Allie Beardsley rolls a nat 20.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing you like me saying like, tell them roll 3 nat 20s in a row, and you being like, well, it's about like using Aikido to like get your players. It's also like different DMing styles a little bit, because I also do that, but there's also, I feel like the difference in our kind of like energies is that I think you're like a dad and I'm like their older brother in a way, where it's like I feel like our players like respect you more than my players respect me in my game, even though I think I think everybody acknowledges how much work the DM is, like being the DM is and everything, but I think just kind of depending on how you play the game or something kind of like affects how you, because like me and my players are like very antagonistic, where it'll be like they'll literally be like, we fucking beat you, we whomped you, like that kind of thing, and I'm like, fuck you. Like my characters say fuck you all the time. They're just always in arguments with them. But I think it works both ways. You have to be high status and nice, or low status and mean.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be willing to be one of the players and eat shit. You know what I mean?
The more adversarial you are as a DM, I will say that it does create that sense of them wanting to get you. I know, for example, that when my PCs are in a lot of danger, I don't get gleeful. I get I get very sad. And I think that has an effect on my PCs because when I start rolling dice and I'm going like, and my PCs go, no!
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't want to see you go, but hey, kiddo.
I'll say I revert to that when things are like very serious. Like I don't want to kill my guys, but when they're like really ragging on my NPCs, I do want to beat them up.
Oh, I definitely have a dad vibe in terms of like, oh, you guys are getting real cocky. All right, well,
we're just gonna have to knock you all out and then hope you don't roll bad on your death saving throws.
Because if they start getting cocky, they're gonna enjoy the game less.
There you go.
There needs to be stakes, full circle.
You're Legolas, you're not Bugs Bunny.
Guys, this has been Adventuring Academy. This has been my guest, Brian Murphy. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, you guys, if you're seeing this on YouTube, you could have seen it earlier on dropout.tv.
You fools.
You fools!
There are consequences.
There are consequences. Later.
Bye.
Hey guys, it's Brennan from College Humor. Click here to subscribe, click here for more fun stuff, and please keep watching because if you stop watching, I start to vanish. You get it? I'm not really real. I'm just a thing on your screen. Don't forget me!